what people across the country are saying about the rising cost of oil. We turn now to our fabulous panel of talk radio hosts from Beantown, Reese Hopkins. He hosts Reese on the Radio at WRKO 680 AM in Boston. Down in Louisville, Francine Cuccinello. She hosts the Francine Show on 84 WHASAM. And over on the West Coast, Kirby Wilbur is sleepless in Seattle. He is the host of the morning show, Kirby Wilbur and Company, on KBI 570 AM. Good morning to the three of you. Thanks so much for joining us today. You know, Reese, Reese, let me get started with you. What are people saying in Boston about the rising price of gasoline and oil and what happened to the market on Friday?
Well, they're not saying much because they're not in their cars listening to my show. To be honest with you, the thing that I'm hearing most by my listeners is some of them are taking days off of work just to save money on gas. And one of the things that I hear now is that if they can't pay for gas, they're trying to save that money so they can pay for food. So they're making life decisions at the gas pump.
Is this the worst you've seen it, Reese, you know, in terms of all the talk and speculation over the past couple of months about recession? I mean, are people really now for the first time starting to panic about it?
Yeah, you know, in the beginning when I started up in Boston, I didn't think it would get this bad. I was a little, I want to say optimistic. But now I'm even starting to feel a little bit of fear, and I don't even own a car. I take public transportation, and I'm still a little scared.
All right, Francine, let me turn to you in Louisville. What are people saying in Louisville about the rising cost of gasoline? Because it's pretty expensive there.
Alexis, we hit $4 just about a month ago. Right now, even our cheapest stations for unleaded regular are $4.09. And unlike Seattle and in Boston, we are not a mass transportation city, and we're not even a mass transportation state. So for the first time, people are actually looking at bus schedules to see if it makes sense to commute that way. And just like Reese was saying, people are taking time off. Our Secretary of State's office just announced it's going to a 4-day work week. Then they'll just, switch around the employees. So the state offices will be open all week, but employees will only come in 4 days.
So, Francine, give me a flavor as to what your listeners are saying. I mean, how nervous are they? Is this the most nervous you've heard them?
It really is, Alexis, because, again, like Reese said, people are making life decisions. You know, the national average in use of post-tax income is about 4%. People spend about 4% their post-tax income on gas prices. That's maybe what's happening in Louisville, but you got to remember in Kentucky in general, we've got a lot of rural areas. The rural area people are saying they're spending at least 12 to 15% of their income. So they're saying, okay, we're not going to eat meat. We'll do beans and rice so we can fill up our tank, or at least put 25 bucks in and hope it gets us to the end of the week.
All right. Thanks, Francine. Let me check now with Kirby in Seattle. Kirby, are you seeing a similar situation over there? Because your economy has been doing relatively well.
It has, and by the way, Francine, we're not all that mass transit, nowhere near as mass transit as Boston. But what I'm seeing, Alexis, my listeners are asking two questions. One, we have a lot of truckers and others who call in and listen to the show, and they're talking about how they're being forced out of business because they can't afford the rising price of diesel. And, of course, that affects everything from Cheerios to big screen TVs because everything that gets delivered on a truck has to reflect the increased cost of getting it there. And secondly, a lot of my listeners are wondering why it is that we're not exploring, why we aren't drilling, why we aren't talking about new energy and creation energy rather than continuing to sit on the oil when we see the Chinese drilling off Florida, when we see a lot of the oil controlled by people hostile to us. A lot of people wondering what's it going to take to get us off the dime and drilling and exploring here at home.
So, Kirby, would you suggest that this is perhaps the first time where you're seeing consumers really get angry about their current state of affairs?
Absolutely, and it's growing. I don't think it's hit a peak here yet, but I think it's growing. And, gas is so essential to the American way of life in terms of transportation, personal transportation, buying the stuff at the store. Yes. 2/3 of our petroleum in this country is used for transportation. I think people are going to start asking really hard questions. And I would say the mood is one unlike I've seen for a very long time.
All right, Kirby, thanks so much. I know we're going to be checking in with all three of you guys coming up in the next hour. We'll talk more about the economy and how many people are tapping into their 401ks and their retirement, because now, of course, more money is going to have to be spent for every